don't know why, but I always get nervous when the intro just finishes because my face just shows for the first time. But welcome back to another edition of the podcast. It is our Game Week 10 preview. We're going to be reacting to all the latest news surrounding the National League on and off the field. Of course, there's a few interesting topics to talk about this week. Some big news that came out today that myself and Paul will be discussing. I'm sure most people will probably agree with our initial opinions on it. But we're going to kind of change that up a little bit as well. We're going to try and give some positives to that. Most people will know what we're on about too. But yeah, there's plenty of topics to talk about tonight. It was a great game week last week, a very odd one as well. Some very interesting results too. Before we get into all of that though, Paul, firstly, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Not too bad at all. Yeah, last week was a bit of an odd set of results, wasn't it? It was not, there was some unusual occurrences, and we've had another bonkers week in the Vanarama. I think there was someone, the coach driver from Southend was filming the match with his drone, so that got stopped. We've had J. Emmanuel Thomas, who played with Kidderminster last year, has been arrested on drugs and charged on drugs charges today, and then obviously what we'll talk about in terms of the some sort of cup format that they put some of the National League teams in.
Yeah, we're going to have to discuss that in quite some detail. We're obviously going to give our views on that. Most people will know our views. We're also going to look at some potential benefits. And I know it's hard to kind of see that, but the problem I think that we've all got to agree with is nothing's going to change. The National League clearly haven't listened to the fans in the past. The National League must know the fans genuinely didn't want this to happen. So they clearly don't care about our opinions. So the only thing that we can do now is we look at the positives to this. We all agree that it shouldn't have happened. We'd rather have FA Cup replays than have this National League Cup that's been implemented. But our opinions aren't going to change that. So the only thing we can do now is perhaps, and I know I don't like saying this, but embrace it in a way and look at ways that it could benefit clubs. One could be the £1 million prize fund that you can get by winning it. But we'll come on to that very shortly. Please remember to like and subscribe, guys. Also, check out our sponsors. There'll be a link in the description. Cars accepted. You can get 50% off your car machine. No contracts or monthly fees. Also, if you would like to become a channel member, it's just £2.99 a month. The benefits to that are going to happen more soon. At the moment, you can use custom emojis in the live chat. That includes your club badges. So I know I've got one or two Aldershot fans. I think an Oldham fan as well. And a few others out there who are channel members, and they can actually use their club badges in the live chat, which is quite a cool perk. But also, interviews in the future, they're going to be accessible to everyone, but for early access, maybe 2 or 3 days early access, if you become a channel member, you'll be able to access that a little bit earlier. Yeah, I think that's all the admin out of the way done. We might as well take a look at the live chat then, see what people are saying before we do get into more detail on the podcast. So first in tonight, Mr. Lucas said, surprised about have you seen in the live chat? Yeah, seen in the chat. That's a National League group. Yeah, I have seen, and I won't be disclosing what has been on that chat in this live stream, Luke. We've had hello gents. Well, I honestly didn't expect us to lose 7-1. Neither did everyone here, but we won't talk about it about that much. Thank you very much. No pressure. And then we've also had Christopher who's come in, Paul.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen my team York play so well. Creative up top, solid at the back with a simply lovely style of play. Do I dare to dream of promotion? I think, Chris, I think you've got a great chance of getting promoted this season with York. He's at Hinshelwood rectified everything that was wrong with them over the last couple of seasons, and there just seems to be a sense of positivity now. And that does come off the owner being Ugler being as positive as he is, and he's allowing Hinshelwood to go and recruit his players and play his style of football, and it's working perfectly. And to have someone like John Lewis come off the bench, I think he scored 4 goals off the bench. That's exactly what you need out of your squad, is a bit of depth, someone who could make a change and an impact, and he's certainly doing that. I'm sure he probably wants to be playing more, but if he's that impactful off the bench, then what a fantastic asset to have. And I think they thoroughly deserve to be top of the league at this moment in time.
Yeah, I'd certainly agree. I know it's changed a little bit at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see if they can keep that up. I know they've got some very tough fixtures coming up. 3 of the next 4 games are, of course, away from home, and those games are Aldershot away, which is renowned, I think, for being quite a tough place to go. Solihull Moors, who seem to come into a little bit more form as of late, and then Woking as well, which will certainly be a tough place to go because you just don't know what to expect from them at the moment with Woking. We've also had Chris, who's coming from Melbourne, a channel member. It's a good day from Melbourne. Of course, it will be Friday over in Australia. So happy Friday to yourselves. We've also got a new member tonight, and that is Rob Worrell, who also co-hosts the Twitter Spaces with myself. A plug to his podcast and the Twitter Spaces as well. Every Sunday we go live, myself and Non-League Full Time. That's the podcast that Rob hosts on a Sunday. We allow you guys to speak. So if you're on YouTube, get yourselves on Twitter. Sunday, usually between 8 and 9, myself and Non-League Full Time do go live. We let as many people speak as possible about all the latest topics, about how your team's done the previous day. And it's just a great all-round chat and good community. And it's good because we get a lot of people on there that are actually quite knowledgeable about the division and about what they're saying. And no one seems to be speaking out of term as of yet. So, yeah, it's a very, very good kind of community to be involved in. Also, Non-League Full Time, they're another National League podcast. They do things slightly different to us. If you go onto like Spotify, I think on any podcast network, you can check them. I think they review every single game week, but not just the National League like us. They'll also do the North and South, as I know there's 1 or 2 Maidstone fans here. I think we've had a Scunthorpe fan, a few of the sides who've previously been in the National League. If you feel you're missing out on National League content, then please go and check them out because they also cover those divisions. And also, Rob, thank you very much for becoming a member. If you want to become a member, guys, it's just £2.99 a month. Anyway, we'll get back to what everyone is talking about then. Ash has come in tonight, said, "Hi, Luke and Paul. Hope you're both well. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The National League Cup could be a good thing or leave clubs out of pocket." And yeah, that's a good kind of segue to bring us on to that topic. Now, before I get your opinions, Rob, I'm going to get the statement up and we're going to kind of dissect it and what the National League have actually said, and then give our thoughts. You know what, Paul? What are your thoughts firstly then? I want to hear this. You're on mute, Paul.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. It's a mixed one, really, because we all want the replays. It does seem like a little bit of a something and nothing cup. I can see benefits in it for the smaller clubs. Yeah, but I can understand why those clubs chasing promotion and the playoffs, Solihull, Barnet, the likes of those sorts of teams, I can see why they're not entering it. The problem you got is exactly what what was commented then is, how much money are they going to make out of each match? I think they're suggesting they're going to be 7 o'clock kickoffs to try and entice families, but the end of the day, we're all saying, for example, have to play Brentford. Is there going to be anyone in Brentford's team that's going to entice anyone to come along? I mean, Romeo Beckham's just left Brentford, so he's going to be the only one that they would go and watch as an example. Fulham, under 21s. I can't see them being a draw. I can see the benefits from the Premier League perspective, them having 21s, academy players playing men's football, if you like, playing senior football. That's going to be a benefit to them. Is it a benefit to clubs to play these teams to see whether there's any prospects of signing lads on loan, in the future to bolster their squads, or any of these lads that maybe are coming towards the end of their contracts gives them an opportunity to play against some National League teams in hope they might find a club next year? It's a really difficult one. I think you're right, Luke. When it boils down to it, it's just a little bit of a nonsense, and it may be one of those things. It's a one-season wonder, and it doesn't happen again. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and for those who might not be aware and might have been living under a rock during today, the National League and the Premier League have come together to announce a new competition. Now, this has been rumoured for a number of months now. I think most of us were hoping that maybe nothing were going to be said about that because we've got a quarter of the way into the season now. But basically, National League sides are going to play Premier League under-21 sides in a cup competition during midweek. Now, I've got the statement up here. The first thing I said, the Premier League and the National League have today launched a new competition for first teams of National League clubs and Premier League 2 sides. The National League Cup is designed to give young players from Premier League and EFL clubs additional opportunities to test themselves against senior opposition, with the aim of further aiding elite player development. Now, that firstly to me screams that it's more appealing to Premier League sides than it is National League sides, because the National League who have announced the statement have actually mentioned the benefits for Premier League sides rather than the National League sides firstly. The competition, which begins in October, also offers an opportunity for National League clubs to play regular matches against their best under-21 teams in England at their own stadium. Now, just to announce that, and it also says they will keep the gate receipts from these fixtures. Now, for context, I've actually put a poll out on Twitter earlier today, and 80% of the people said that they will not be attending National League fixture games. And then 20% said that they have, and that 20% might still agree with us. It's just that they're still going to support the team in that. Now, let's say on average, I don't know if you'd agree with this, Paul, on average, National League sides average about 2,000 a gate, would you say, across the division? That means that 400 people on average will be attending National League Cup matches. So how is that going to benefit? How is that? That doesn't sound like to me like National League fans are really going to get behind it and embrace the fact that they're going to have Premier League under-21 sides at their stadium. And also, you talk about keeping the gate receipts. I'm sure National League supporters, National League clubs will be very happy that they get to keep the gate receipts for 400 people attending, which is 20% of their average attendances. What's your thoughts on that first, then, Paul?
Well, I mean, the first thought was that I hadn't even read this statement, and immediately when I'd sort of said, well, it's going to be a benefit for the young lads to play men's football, I had no idea that was one of the overriding factors as to why they're doing it. Listen, I can't see how they're going to sort of promote the fact that we get to, or the National League teams get to play against the very best under-21s in the country. I think across the National League, we've seen under-21s come out on loan to National League clubs, and they're very indifferent. Some are very good, and some aren't so good, and some struggle. So I think that's a bit of a. It's a bit of a marketing thing in terms of we get to see the play against the best under-21s. Rubbish. The National League teams are good enough. They don't need to be playing 21s teams. The second thing is, Luke, is how realistic is it going to be for those 21s when they play against a National League team? Because how many of those National League teams are going to put their first 11 out? Very few.
Yeah.
Very few. So, a Fulham will come along and play Wealdstone as an example. Now, Wealdstone don't have the biggest squad, got a few injuries. Is our manager going to put his first 11 in on a Tuesday night knowing they've got Barnet or Halifax or Gateshead coming up on the Saturday? Of course he's not. So all of a sudden you've got possibly trialists. You've got those lads that are coming back from injury. You've got the squad players who haven't even seen the bench. So all of a sudden, these 21s aren't playing against the strongest National League teams. They're playing against squad. It's a bit like the Carabao Cup when you watch it for all the Papa Johns and all that you see in the Football League. And so I think, the fact that these 21s are going to be playing, yes, they're playing men's football. They're playing senior football, but they're not coming up against the strongest teams. Don't get me wrong, get towards the final and you go deep in the competition, then there may be a slightly different attitude towards it and someone sees it as a bit of a medal and a day out, then so be it and take advantage of that. But at the moment, I think it's just a bit of blah and a bit of nonsense, a bit of marketing on the Premier League side. And like you said, I think it's really set up for them rather than National League. Oh, we can keep the gate receipts. That's very nice. It's probably going to cost more to put a match on than we get through the door. It's... I hadn't read that statement, and having heard it, it's made me less want to watch it than it did before, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I've not even got into the main detail of it yet, which I'll put up shortly. Also, guys who are in the live chat, just over 50 of you watching at the moment, leave your thoughts as well, and potentially have you rounds like we'd expect and like we currently are at the moment. But also, if there's any benefits that you can think of to this, that would be, would be very happy to hear about them, because that's something that we're gonna need to look at in the future, because it's looking like it is going to go ahead. Now, they've further gone on to say the first round of the competition includes fixtures between Oldham and Stoke City under 21s, and FC Halifax Town and Newcastle United, while Dagenham and Redbridge host Tottenham Hotspur. Now, those fixtures obviously start in October the 1st and 2nd, I think it says there. Now, when I'm looking at that, Halifax have got Wealdstone at home. They're then playing in this new competition on the Tuesday, because all games will be played at home. And then on the Saturday, they've got another home game as well. Now, for those who aren't aware, Halifax, alongside a few other sides in this division, Wealdstone, I think, are one as well, we can both agree of, pitch-wise, struggle in the winter months with home games. Now, if you're having even more games being put on at home, it's not going to do the pitch any favours, which means we talk about fixture congestion, which was the whole reason that they've scrapped FA Cup replays. Yet you're bringing a new competition in that's going to congest fixtures even more for Premier League, for National League clubs, I should say. I don't know what your thoughts is on that, Paul, on the pitch side of things, and also injuries that could potentially happen to players as well during this time.
Yeah, it's just, it does feel it's just a bit of a nonsense, Luke. And, listen, I try and be positive and look at the benefits. There's £1 million pot to win, okay? That's going to be a real big incentive for those clubs that are in it. The likes Halifax, Wealdstone, Maidenhead, who are in Woking, they need the money. But what impact does that have on the rest of the season? It's only time will tell. But I genuinely don't think that they're going to take it seriously enough to put strong teams out. And I guess there's another positive, right? So a Halifax fan a person who lives in Halifax, supports Newcastle, may go along and watch, has a nice time and thinks, actually, I'll come back. Wealdstone play against Brighton. It's a good football match. Both play good football. Young kids come along, 7 o'clock kickoff. Oh, do you know what? I'll go and watch Wealdstone Saturday. That may be a positive. It may start a little bit like, what's it called? The not the T20, but the 100 in cricket. That type of trying to get other people involved and trying to get other people to come and watch the games. Just a pure sort of thought off the top of my head, and that may not come to anything. But like you said, I'm just trying to think of the positives around something that just seems set up to sort of allow the Premier League to develop their players. And we're left as National League teams left like a little bit like cannon fodder, and they'll be all right for the opposition, and we'll sweeten them with a bit of cash, and we'll give them the gate money, and they can kick off at 7. Nah, I don't think. I think you're right, Luke. You're going to get hundreds watching, not thousands.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that very much as well. And Rob's actually come on and actually put a good point out here. I thought it was too good to be true for $1 million to be won. 1 million between 16 clubs is 62 grand each. So that 1 million don't even go to the winners. It's spread across. That will barely cover the cost of hosting 4 games with likely losses due to low crowds. Yeah, that's something as well that I think we have to take into consideration as well. For those who want to know, the 8 clubs that haven't actually entered into the competition, so for those who've maybe not looked on social media today and have just learnt about the competition, your side might be fortunate enough not to be participating in it. Those sides are Barnet, Southend, Eastleigh, Solihull, York, Yeovil, Fylde, and Hartlepool. So those supporters, fortunately for them, won't have to be travelling down to support the team against under 21 side. Unfortunately for me and Paul, we'll have fixtures. Will we attend? I doubt my dad will be wanting to attend that game, which means I'm not going, and I won't be too bothered about that. Paul, do you reckon you'd ever travel down to the Vale for a game, whoever you're playing?
If it's on a Tuesday night, then absolutely not, because my kids all have their football training on Tuesday, and if it's a 7 o'clock kickoff, I've got absolutely no chance of going. If it's a Wednesday night and there's not a lot else going on, I may go down loop, but I'm certainly not going to sort of clear the diary and stop doing other things for it. I think you sort of go down there with more of an interest of who they're playing and what the team like they're playing against. Is anyone decent that you could pick up, sort of scenario, from a geekiness perspective of being a football fan, you seeing what might be coming through the system. But no, I don't. Listen, as I said, I don't think it'll be on the forefront of the calendar to attend these games. But if the opportunity arises and the weather's not too bad, then I may go.
Yeah, I doubt I'll be going, to be honest. For those who don't, I live about half an hour away from Halifax, so I doubt I'll be travelling half an hour to attend those games. The only way I think it would have been appealing for me is if they maybe made it Yorkshire-based, where you're playing against just Yorkshire sides. I know Halifax fans on the forum have actually said the one game that kind of appeals me, where I think it'll be a good game to go to, would be the Leeds United under-21s game at home, because maybe it's seen as a bit of a derby kind of, and Leeds are known under-21s to get good support as well, which means hopefully there'll be a lot of Leeds fans that might actually travel to the Shea. So that might be the only example of where it could be a positive. I think what would have been better is if they'd have made it like Yorkshire-based for Halifax. This means, I think, more regional-based for sides. I know it is northern and south, but a little bit more into like counties. Maybe that'd be a better way of putting it. Having them away as well. Like, I know Leeds United, it wouldn't be a sellout or anything like that if Halifax went for an under-21s game, but for us to actually just go to Ellen Road as Halifax, and for the players as well, that'd be very beneficial. It'd be like the same with, Wealdstone playing Brentford and being able to play at that stadium. Maybe that'd be a way of making it a positive way of making it. We're going to come to the live chat before we do move on and see what people have actually been saying. We've also had Martin, who's joined us tonight, said, "Evening, Luke and Paul. Joining the pod tonight as apparently it's the place to be for Oldham athletic positivity." Yep, you know that. And we will be positive about Oldham tonight. We've had greetings from Poland. Blooming heck, we are going international at the moment. We had a fan, I think it was like a Southend fan from Slovakia, joined last week. We've obviously got Chris, who tunes in every week from Australia. And now we've also got a fan from Poland joining us. So greetings from Poland. And then we've also had Talkball TV said top of the league Reds. Someone's put thoughts on the new cup competition. We've just discussed that. Also on tonight, we've had Kevin, who's joined and said, "Evening, guys. Hope you're both well." Yep, we're both well. Thank you very much. John's also said, "Evening, guys. Welcome to the stream, John. Good to see you're here." Let's see what people have been saying. Martin's come and said, "Agree with Paul. The clubs with larger squads will use their matches to give squad players time on the pitch." That could potentially be seen as a beneficial thing to get players game time. For the smaller clubs, maybe not. Will's come in and said the National League side should use the competition to play young lads and those needing game time, play the big boys at their own game. And then Lee said it's a free training session for the Prem. Yeah, it certainly is. Stingstone's come and said, "We played 62 games last season in all competitions. No cup replays required, which would have made it almost impossible to compete in a cup like this if it was to exist." We've also had Tom said, "I have no idea why we Oldham have decided to join the competition. Play the fans." To be fair, Oldham, they were a side for me where I was quite surprised that they've actually gone ahead with this and not pulled out of the competition, because they strike me as the type of club that I think we can all agree don't like being part of the National League and affiliated with the National League as a whole. So why would they want to enter into a competition like this that I think most of us, and this is our opinions, is seen to be quite a tin pot competition? So I am quite surprised that Oldham have gone ahead with it and have not pulled out, because you look at some of the sides that have, you look at Barnet and Dean Brennan's opinions on that. Hartlepool, quite a club that probably don't want to be here. York as well, and Southend. So I'm quite surprised that Oldham didn't pull out of that one. Asher's coming, Paul.
Paul's hit the nail on the head. The average under-21 crowd at Spurs was 550, which is third highest. On the positive, you may get a few more loan players in the league, could be good for the smaller clubs. I think that's got to be one of the things that the National League clubs will be looking at, is having an idea of what may be available to come in on loan, or indeed at the end of these players' contracts, and they're looking to sort of drop down the leagues, which we see a lot. And it may be beneficial to them that they've got this on their CV, that they played in the National League Cup, and there is a bit of exposure to the National League teams. But like I said, it can be very indifferent, the quality of player that comes in, and it's not to suggest they're not good footballers, but they, some just adapt hugely better to the National League than others.
We've also had Thomas, who's come in and said, it wouldn't surprise me if the under-21 teams are their shadow reserve academy sides. Premier League teams wouldn't want to host a game. It costs them too much money. Yeah, well, think about the National League sides and how we all feel. Does Wales count as international, Luke? Yeah, I'd say so. Martin, if you're a Wrexham fan, I'm sorry to assume. It's good to see that you're still here. If not, thanks for tuning in anyway. Yeah, I think that's probably more or less it on that topic, to be honest. We don't want to give it too much attention. Any more benefits you could think for National League clubs, Paul, before we move on, or have we got one or two?
No, I think we've exhausted all the positivity out of that cup. And I think it's one of those, Luke, where we've all just got to suck it and see and be positive about it. And if you choose not to go, you choose not to go. But we'll see how it takes off. And I don't even know, where's the final being played. Is there an entice of being played at wherever it's Old Trafford or Ellen Road or the Emirates, maybe. So it's probably likely to be at one of the smaller Premier League sides. So I think we just got to just suck it and see, and we can probably talk about it in a few months' time. And if it's a disaster or an absolute success, then we can sort of divulge and dissect that then, I guess.
Yeah, we certainly can. So we'll move on then from that. Just over 70 people watching at the moment. Please remember to like and subscribe. Liking gets it out to more people. Subscribing grows the community. I think we're less than 16 subscribers away. This was before the live, from actually hitting 2,000. I'm sure there's a fair few of you in here, guys, who haven't subscribed yet. So if you can, please do. I think also something I wanted to talk about tonight, and I know this actually was announced a fair few days ago now, but Fylde, obviously Beach has kind of been sacked, hasn't he, from Fylde now? So they'll be looking to appoint a new manager. Some potential names that I think are seen is Neil Ardley, Pete Wild, and John Coleman. Now, they're all quite ambitious, I think, considering Fylde's current position. They're not from official sources. It's just what I think's been seen on Twitter. Maybe it's suggestions that Fylde fans actually want to see. Pete Wild, for me, I can't see it happening. I think it'd be a good fit for them, but I just personally don't think he'd drop, considering he was managing in Barrow and he actually left due to, I think it was a mutual decision, wasn't it? Him leaving Barrow. So I'd be surprised if he drops back down into the National League. John Coleman, he's been someone who's been announced, which has been very, very ambitious, I think, for the National League to have someone like him in the National League managing Fylde. And then Neil Ardley, I don't even think that's a rumour. That's just one that I think I'd like to see and I could see potentially happening. Is there anyone for you, Paul, that you'd like to see manage Fylde, who you think you could see that would fit them? You're on mute again.
Sorry, mate. I put it on mute in case my dogs go mad. I don't want to disturb us. So it's a difficult one because based up in the northwest, it's going to be difficult to, or anywhere that's a job is available. National League isn't awash with money, so you've got to consider relocating and everything else, and the cost to you personally as well as financially. It's definitely one of those jobs, Luke, I think, that will entice someone who's out of work to want to get back into work and make a difference and get them out of that sort of bottom 4, 5, 6 that they're in. because managers are better off being in a job than not in a job. So the likes of Neil Hardy, the likes of John Coleman, and Pete Wild will probably be looking at this and saying this is a really good time for me to go back in. I don't know. You could even look at someone like Neil Critchley from Blackpool, who's local to there. He's had a couple of stints at Blackpool. He's had a go at QPR, and yes, they are Championship sides and Division 1, League 1, League 2 sides, but he hasn't really ripped up sort of any trees with that. So, is someone like him just thinking, a bit like Matt Taylor does with us at Wealdstone, you just get a job and be successful and get something positive on your CV. There's going to be loads of managers. And again, there's going to be left field choices that we don't even consider. There'll be academy coaches, there'll be assistant managers. I mean, we've seen it. I think was it in the Football League today where the Norwich assistant manager's gone and taken the Stoke job. No one would have picked him out to necessarily take that job. So these clubs are now being a bit cuter in trying to find the next coach or manager from sources that we wouldn't normally consider. So. Yeah, it's a difficult one. They does the manager, is it now Nathan Delfonso? Is he taking over at the moment?
He was at Bradford, wasn't he?
Yeah, Bradford and Villa. They did very well. They had that new manager bounce, or that beating Southend on Tuesday. Does he stake a claim, get a few good results, a few wins, and does he take it on? He's a young chap, not been long finished playing himself, and do they go with him maybe to the end of the season? I know it's still very early in the season, so they've got options. They're not in a desperate position. They're obviously decent off the field. They're not doing quite so well on the field as they probably would want. So I think it's a good proposition. It's a good job for someone, and be interesting to see who they get and whether they do go that left field unknown choice or whether they go that tried and tested. David Unsworth, he needs a job. He didn't really do very well at Oldham. There'll be loads of those sorts of names we don't even think of and think, oh yeah, what about him? So it'd be interesting to see what the rumours are over the next week or so if no one's appointed.
I think the components are kind of there for Fylde. And I do agree with you saying it's quite a good job to be going into. I think they've clearly got a good strength in depth. They've got some good quality players there. Nick Horton is just a dream player to be managing, but there's also got quite a lot of young players that have clearly got the ability that have kind of fallen out of the Football League. And I think you can tell there's a lot of goals in the team. Maybe defensively they need to strengthen, and it was something we talked about last season, wasn't it, as well with Fylde? And I think we said if they'd have just had a tighter defence, then they'd be in a lot higher position. And I think at times when I've seen Fylde, I thought, how are they in the bottom half of the table? They're aside for me when I've seen them play against Halifax twice. And to be fair, on TNT Sports, when they were covering the National League and on National League TV, I always look at Fylde, especially some of the goals that they score, and think, for me, they were a playoff virgin team, to be honest, in a way. So it's interesting to see there. I genuinely do feel there's potential with that club because the chairman will clearly back the manager, like we've seen. Someone's actually come in, though, and actually said... listen to Fylde's chairman, and he mentioned once a up-and-coming manager who plays football more like Pep than the Everton manager. And he said Fylde owner held an interview after letting Beach go, and he was clear he wants a manager who plays football the way he wants to see it played. Yeah, I think that's something that they're going to want. I think Neil Hardley, for me, would be a perfect fit. I think he's known to be quite good defensively as well, because he was quite a defensive-minded player when he's been at clubs in the past. I know he didn't particularly work out at York, but he didn't keep them up, but they were just outside of the relegation zone, I think, when he left. So for me, I think it'd be a good project for him there. He did well at Solihull. I think Notts fans will have mixed opinions on him, but there were times where the full crowd were behind him. So for me, Neil Hardley would be a perfect fit. Is there anyone perfectly who in your mind at the moment you could see being the Fylde manager, or do you think it's quite hard to tell at the moment?
No, it's hard. It is hard to tell because when the manager, the chairman obviously didn't like the way that Chris Beach played. I think they did rely a lot on Nick Horton, and they're not particularly an industrial side. They're not a long ball side. So it depends on the sort of style of play that he does want. He's never divulged that, has he? He's just sort of said he wants to see football the way he wants it to be played. So I should imagine there'll be some interesting discussions between him and any potential candidates in terms of the philosophy that these managers have or coaches have that fit with this chairman. I would imagine it will be the type of football that we all sort of see, where it's possession based and it comes out from the back and it's played through the lines, and you've got tricky wingers, you've got Horton playing the 10. It's probably going to be that type of football. The way Gateshead to play, the way Stuart Mannion play with Wheelstone, the way Dean Brennan plays on the front foot, Aldershot. Yes, it'd be interesting conversations to see who is going to sell themselves to him with the philosophy they've got. Whether they can actually implement that is going to be difficult because they're not his players. But, time will tell. But they've certainly got a good footballer in Horton who they can sort of build a footballing team around.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Tom's coming in. I'll be honest, I haven't heard of this coach before. Brian Barry Murphy is an up-and-coming possession-based youth coach at Man City who is openly looking for a job based in the Northwest. How you know that about Manchester City's youth coach is beyond me, but fair play.
Sounds I'm sure he used to play for Rochdale, Luke. They could be wrong.
He'll be a Rochdale fan, that'll be why.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. But no, that sounds like that'd be a good one, I suppose. I don't know anything about him, but if he's at Manchester City set up and based in the Northwest and wanting a manager role, then that'd be quite a good one, I think. And like I say, I think Fylde, there's clearly a project there. I think they've been building on getting into the Football League over the last decade. I know they've had a few hurdles in the way where they've dropped back down into the National League North, but now they're back in the National League. I can really see them pushing on if they can get a good coach in there, because I do genuinely think the squad has got a lot of potential and can only get better with the backing that I think the chairman will give them there. I think we've probably come to a point now, Paul. We've discussed all the major topics that I wanted to get through tonight, where we can actually get on with the predictions, which is good because last week we did leave it a little bit too late. I think we were like an hour and 10 minutes in before we even got on to the predictions. So hopefully this week we can go into a little bit more detail on those games than we did last week. We will look at the scores on the doors. Before we do that, remember to like and subscribe, as we previously mentioned. Also, check out our sponsors, Cards Accepted. There'll be a link in the description for you to do that. You'll get 50% off your card machine, no contracts or monthly fees. Also, the scores are really, really interesting at the moment. It's starting to heat up. The first time in a very long time, Paul. 47-47. You haven't got in front of me, I don't think, ever, to be honest, because this is the second season we've done this. Maybe this week, Paul, could be the week.
Oh, look, who knows? Who knows? Yeah, it wasn't a brilliant week for either of us, was it? There was some really unpredictable scores. So, let's hope this week is slightly more predictable with the teams that we think may win or pick up points. But last week was a really tough one. And again, it just proves what the National League is in terms of its inconsistency and actually how fun it is and the fact that anyone can beat anyone can pick points up off other teams. So, last week wasn't a good one for either of us, but I'm glad that I've got it back to 47 all. And it's only onwards and upwards in here from me, Luke. So watch your back.
Yeah, I suppose I'm going to have to. The way I've been going at the moment, I certainly am going to have to improve. One game that I even got correct. It's not even a case of getting the score exactly correct. One game that I actually said a team would win, and I think they won. And I think I can't even remember. I think it was York who are back to win. I think I said they'd win 3-1 and they won 3-0. So it might have looked a little bit better if that result had come off. But I think overall not a good game week for either of us. Paul, as you can tell, you sponsor the Predictions League. Would you like to give your page a plug?
Yes, I sponsor it as PTF Travel. My wife and I have a travel agency or consultancy business that we run, and if anyone has any holiday requirements, be it a weekend away to a multi-centre trip, skiing, anything, then please give us a shout, and we'd be more than happy to help you.
Brilliant. We'll move on to the Predictions League now. We'll have a quick look at the table. York, of course, we've mentioned they obviously headlined tonight's podcast with them leading the way. Forest Green and Barnet just behind them. I think we've had 5 different teams now, or 6 maybe, 6 teams actually, who've led the way this season now. All of those are in the top 6 at the moment. Oldham in the playoffs now. After their win away at Woking, fair play to them. I think we'll have to give them credit. And then Solihull Moors, Dagenham with a 7-1 win against Gateshead, have climbed up to 9th now. And then you've got Halifax in 10th place at the moment. Dagenham, Paul, 7-1 versus Gateshead. I don't think anyone would have predicted that, not even me.
No, what a result for Dagenham. I mean, as I say, I watched them at the beginning of the season. Admittedly, it was the first game, and they didn't look like they had 7 shots in them, let alone 7 goals. And Dion Pereira is a real live wire, and he's certainly one to watch out for. Any fans that have got Dagenham coming up, he's their danger man. But yeah, to bag 7 against Gateshead, who before the game hadn't lost a match this season. And I think they'd only let 4 goals in. Dagenham had only scored 4 or 5. There was not a chance anyone in this world would have predicted 7-1. So, good for the television, I suppose. Not so great for Gateshead fans, but it's one of those. I think they just got to dust themselves down. There'll be an inquest. The players will sort themselves out, and they'll go again this week. They've got a tough one against Forest Green Rovers, so they're going to want to bounce back as soon as they can.
I think they scored more goals in the last 2 matches, Dagenham, than they have all season, which says a lot. And, we've talked about Dagenham and them struggling for goals. I think was a topic that we spoke about in a few weeks ago. And ever since we've talked about them struggling for goals, they've gone and scored 10 goals in the last 2 matches. Moeas getting back and scoring. We've always said, haven't we? He's got the potential. Well, he's always had the ability, I should say. And it's good to see that he's back scoring for Dagenham because he was one of their star players before he made that move to Notts County. And Dion Pereira, what a player he is for them at the moment. He's certainly one of the standouts in the National League as a whole at the moment. For Gateshead, though, I think it's one you've just got to forget and hope that he can move on immediately because that is a freak result and a very bad result, though, for them.
Oh, yeah, massive. And it doesn't help their goal difference in being in that playoff positions. I know it's early, but goal difference can sometimes help. But, yeah, hopefully they haven't mentally been bruised too much by it and they'll just sort of shake it off at the weekend now at home. So that's going to be helpful to them. But yeah, what a score! What a scoreline! Unbelievable.
Further down the table, then we've got Hartlepool and Yeovil making up the top half at the moment. Hartlepool, I think, have got the joint best defence in the division at the moment. Then further down in the bottom half, we've got Woking. Aldershot seem to have been in every single position this season. Sutton, Altrincham, Southend, a side who are struggling at the moment. They lost in midweek in the last minute to Fylde, who you may say have got the new manager bounce under Delafonso. And then Tamworth just above the drop zone at the moment. And the current bottom 4, you've got Braintree, Wealdstone, Maidenhead and Ebbsfleet. Concerned, Paul, being in the bottom 4? Although you did get a point back after being 2-0 down at Forest Green, are you still concerned a little bit?
The concern comes and goes, Luke. I was more concerned at 2-0 down after 6 minutes. I was in the 89th minute when we scored an equaliser. But yeah, it is concerning because we seem to be playing well enough, but not turning those performances into results. And when you look at the games we've got coming up, Barnet on Saturday, we've got Southend in there, Yeovil are coming up, Halifax are coming up. They're tough matches, so we need to really start picking up some points. But I think the positive is that if you look at that bottom 6, there's only 3 points between, or bottom 7, there's only 3 points between them. So it's not like any team, including Wealdstone, are cut adrift at this moment in time. And we're going to hopefully take a little bit of heart from the fact that we went to Forest Green away from home and thoroughly deserved a point. And maybe on another day could have got 3, but you've got to take heart from those sorts of performances and hope that it's something to build on.
Yeah, I need you to be my co-host next season, Paul. So please pull it out of the bag and survive this season. We'll move on to the game week then. By round, we're on to game week 10 now. I think a lot of people do say when you've had 10 games, that's when you can start to see little patterns on where teams may finish this season. Still very early, I feel, in the season when you look at it at the moment. There's no side at the top that's managed to pull away by even a point yet, I don't believe. And near the bottom as well, it keeps changing every single week. But the first game that we've got, Fylde versus Woking. Now, both these sides currently in the position, I think, are struggling a little bit, particularly Fylde in the bottom half. Woking do sit 13th. They've been a bit of a mixed bag this season. Fylde getting that win, though, I feel, midweek at home. I am expecting them to actually back this up again with another win. I'm actually going to go for a high-scoring game here. I'm going to go for a 3-2 Fylde win, because Fylde do often concede a lot of goals, but they also score a lot. How do you see it going, Paul?
I have gone with a Fylde win. I've gone with the Fylde 2, Woking 0. Like I said, Woking are a real mixed bag. I don't think they've been overly convincing in certain performances. Not surprising. We have probably had them doing worse than they actually are, didn't we, Luke? So in mid-table, drawn 1, 1-4, lost 4, drawn 1. So that they're very sort of bipolar. It's unlikely there'll be a draw there. So I've gone with Fylde 2, Woking 0. Fylde at home, got a win in the week. I think they're going to want to try and push on from that. And if they win that, they probably would then sit more mid-table themselves.
Someone's actually put Woking were atrocious against Oldham. And it's funny you say that. When Rochdale played Woking, actually won 3-0, we had a few Rochdale fans that came on mine and Rob's space on Twitter, and Rochdale fans were less complimentary about Rochdale. They were more negative, actually, about Woking and how poor they were. So it does feel like when Woking are poor, they really are bad. But they do seem to keep pulling results out of the bag. Wealdstone at home, Hartlepool at home, Dagenham even. They keep seeming to pull results out of the bag at times. I want to ask, although Woking defeated Wealdstone, Paul, what did you think of the Woking side overall?
Again, I don't think they weren't overly convincing. They got a penalty. Was it typical? Was it a penalty? Or was it not a penalty? And even when you look at the penalty, could the Wealdstone goalie have done better with it? Archie Matthews, he's almost dived over the ball too early. It's gone under his body, and not the most convincing penalty. And fair play to them, they hung on to get the win. But I think if they were playing someone more potent than Wealdstone, then they would have probably lost the game. So, they've hung in there and they've got some results. But like I said, I think there's a pattern of they're not as convincing as they could be. Which is not surprising considering what we sort of spoke about pre-season and their off the field challenges with no money or wanting to be sold. So listen, they're going to be happy with 13th. I think they just got to try and stay in this league at the moment in time.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. We'll move on to the next game then now, which is Aldershot versus York. Now, this kind of game screams a lot of goals. I think for York, it's not the type of game that you want when you've just gone top of the league, having to go away to Aldershot, who are known to be better against the so-called better sides in the division. Are very good at home, I think, overall, Aldershot. Maybe not shown that yet, although they haven't played many games at home this season. But they're very hard to beat, and they're known, even this season, to score an awful amount of goals. And, both sides do. How do you see it going then, Paul?
Well, this is my crazy prediction of the week.
Yeah.
I've got Aldershot 3, York 4. Because I think I agree with what you're saying, Luke. They both can score goals. Aldershot can let goals in. I think both entertaining teams. Both York certainly are on a high and playing with confidence. So, Aldershot 3, York 4 is the bonkers sort of prediction of the week from me.
I don't want to look stupid because when I last did one of those, it came off. So I've gone for a more, maybe you'd say, sensible score. I've gone for a 2-2 draw for this game. I think we can both agree that both sides score a lot of goals. Aldershot, more than York, are known to concede a lot. York have actually been pretty good defensively this season. I think they're the joint best defence in the division alongside Hartlepool. But I just feel, with Aldershot, that they guarantee goals, and I think this will be another game where we'll probably see a bunch of goals. Most people are going for some quite high scoring results. 3-3 we've got here. I was tempted to put that one, I'll admit. 3-2, 2-1 to Aldershot. I think for any neutral that isn't going to a game this game week, this is the game that you're going to tune into, to be honest. I know someone actually put before we went live, I wouldn't be surprised if Aldershot go and beat York 4-1. It's the sort of thing that Aldershot would do. I'm going for a 2-2. We'll move on to the next game then now. Altrincham versus Boston. Altrincham haven't particularly convinced me much this season. They're clearly struggling for goals. I think only once this season they've actually scored more than one goal, and that was against an Ebbsfleet side who at the time were very, very poor and were bottom of the league, which they still are, but the manager's since left. Altrincham, I'm just not too convinced with them. Of course, at home to Boston, another side that I think we can both agree we knew they were going to be down there this season. I think we both predicted them to go down. No matter if they stay up or not, I think it's going to be tight for them. But for this game, Altrincham, they seem to be struggling to score goals, and I can see this being a bit of a draw. I'm going for a 1-1 draw. How do you see it going, Paul?
I've gone with a 2-0 Altrincham win. I think what sort of swayed me, if you look at their records, they're very similar, aren't they? And they're both desperate for a sort of bit of momentum and to try and get another win. Neither have won in the last two. So, it's really difficult because Altrincham, we expect them to be further up the table. Boston, I think, are where we'd expect them to be. So I think the pressure's on Altrincham, really. They're only one win better than Boston. So they're going to have to look at a game like this and think this is a game we need to win to sort of claw back, and then that will push them into mid-table depending on other results, and then hopefully they'll start to push on from there. But is this the season that it catches up with Altrincham a little bit? Have they been over successful in the last couple of seasons, and so their expectations are higher than maybe they should be? Only time will tell. But like you said, 9, 10, 11 games in, we start to look at sort of patterns of form, although the National League is probably one of those leagues where that goes out the window a little bit. But I think Altrincham have just got they're going to need this win, and they're at home, a bit more experience in the National League. Boston are a tough and physical side. They'll work hard, a lot of energy. I think Altrincham will just have that little bit more quality and win 2-0.
Altrincham clearly significantly overachieved last season, and the question always is what's even harder for a side like Altrincham and even like your Gatesheads, your Halifaxes, is can they replicate that again and actually improve? And it's a lot harder, particularly for these clubs, because you're more or less guaranteed to lose 1 or 2 players in the summer, like we saw Altrincham do, losing Con Clark, and we always knew that was going to be a massive, massive loss for them. The question was not necessarily replacing Con Clark with one player, but players around him from last season and players that they brought in being able to score more goals to kind of make up for his numbers. And so far for me, I don't think they've done that. Regan Lynn is a lad who I think needs to be scoring more than what he has done in the last couple of seasons. Last season, I think he got 13, 14 goals. He needs to be scoring a lot this season. Your players like your Crankshaws, your newbies need to be scoring more goals this season just to make up for losing him, because so far for me, I think Altrincham going forward have been a lot weaker than what they've been in previous years. We'll move on to the next game then now. We'll go to Braintree versus Tamworth, 2 newly promoted sides. A bit of a 6-pointer, you might say, at the early stages of the season. Tamworth currently sit 20th in the league, and Braintree currently sit 21st in the league. I'm going to back Braintree to win this game 2-0. How do you see it going, Paul?
I've gone with Braintree winning 1-0. Is it a 6-pointer this early in the season? If you look at the table as it stands, Wealdstone got a tough one against Barnet at home. Potentially going to drop points there. Maidenhead have got Halifax. There's not going to be these. So I think they'll look at this and think, well, we're going to leapfrog. Braintree can leapfrog Tamworth. Tamworth can pull away from Braintree and Wealdstone. So and they're not going to want to lose. I think it'll be a tight affair, and I've gone with Braintree 1, Tamworth 0.
Yeah, well, I've gone for 2-0. Like I've said, neither's probably going to want to lose this game, like you've mentioned there. The question, and it's something we've spoke about on the space, is what's happening with Vinny Effingham. You know, him going to Braintree, I think we thought that's a marquee signing for them, something that a newly promoted side it's exactly what they need, a proven striker at this level to be able to keep them up. But he hasn't even managed to get a goal to his name yet this season, and he's not even playing at the moment. Yeah, what's happening with him, do you think, Paul?
It's a difficult one. I've not seen Braintree play, but is he getting the service? Do they play the style of football? Was he the fact that he was available and Braintree wanted some marquee signings or known signings from the National League, and it's not quite fitting, stylistically? It's difficult, isn't it? Because everyone wants goal scorers that can score goals, and Vinny Effingham has done that at all levels, I think, in Scotland and England. So it's listen, they've got a new manager in. It may be in the next 2 or 3 weeks that he's back in favour, or they play a style of football that suits him. But he's certainly someone that on paper should be contributing, and we thought he would, and clearly he hasn't. So, I hope for Braintree that he does. If not, you'll probably end up back at a different National League side come January.
We'll move on to the next game then now. Eastleigh versus Rochdale. Eastleigh started the season on fire. They got 4 wins out of 4. But in their previous 5, have only managed to pull off 1 win, which was at home to Tamworth. They've had 3 defeats in those 5 as well. So they've kind of fallen off a cliff. They're at home to Rochdale. I think one positive thing you can bring towards Eastleigh going into this game is that they're still unbeaten at home, and all these defeats have, of course, come away from home at some quite difficult places, including Halifax, Gateshead and Southend. For this one, though, Rochdale having that defeat against Solihull, I think that was their 2nd defeat of the season. They were top, I believe, prior to that game. I'm going for a draw for this game, 1-1. How do you see it going, Paul?
I've gone for Eastleigh 0, Rochdale 2. It just a bit of. I know they lost their last game, but Eastleigh doing what we expected them to do, whereas before they were doing better than we thought. So, I think Rochdale just quietly going around their business. They just got to bounce back from that defeat, and I think they'll just be a bit too strong for Eastleigh. It's a nice playing service down there, and Rochdale like to play a bit of football, so I think they'll be okay and they'll win 2-0.
We'll move on to the next game then now. The next one, of course, is Gateshead versus Forest Green. Now, we talk about entertaining games for guys to tune into. This could be the one. Gateshead losing 7-1, needing to bounce back. Is this the game that you'd want after you've just been thumped 7-1? Maybe because you're at home would be the only positive, but I think overall you don't want to be coming up against Forest Green, who are known to score a lot of goals as well. I think Gateshead will be able to bounce back potentially. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw for me for this game. How do you see it going, Paul?
I've gone with Gateshead 3, Forest Green Rovers 2. Both didn't have the best weeks last week. Clearly, we know about Gateshead not having probably not having the best week in a number of years. Forest Green would have expected to have beaten Wealdstone, especially being 2-0 up after 6 minutes and not being able to hold on to that lead. And if you see Wealdstone's second goal, in the 89th minute, it's pretty poor defending. There's a bit of a scramble in the goal, and Wealdstone are able to get the ball in the net. But I think both teams are going to be going into it wanting to get a win. They're both expected to be up and around them playoff places, if not in the promotion, like automatic promotion hunt. So I think Gateshead are okay. They'll be fine, and they're probably just going to be too strong for Forest Green Rovers. But listen, this could go either way, and I've gone with Gateshead this time 3-2.
Yeah, Gateshead are still unbeaten at home as well. We have to remember that was their first defeat of the season. And you look at some of the big games where they've managed to pull it out of the bag. Barnet at home, Eastleigh at home this season. Beating sides like Yeovil at home. at home, they seem to be very strong and away overall. So it's just going to be interesting to see if they can bounce back, because we've seen sides in the past when they have that first defeat of the season, they kind of fall off a cliff. Like we've seen with Eastleigh, once they've had that defeat, they then go and lose a number of games. Solihull, I think, was similar last season, where I think they'd lost away, and then immediately after that, then lost at home. So both their unbeaten away record and unbeaten home record went within less than a week. So it's going to be interesting to see if Gateshead can bounce back. We'll move on to the next game then now. Someone's actually mentioned it being game of the week. Yeah, it could potentially be. I think that and the Aldershot v York game are the two that I'll be looking out for. The next game then, and this is a good one as well, Hartlepool, who have the best defence in the division at the moment, are playing against Dagenham, who've just put 7 past Gateshead. Now, if we're talking about this last week, prior to Dagenham defeating Gateshead by 7 goals, I probably would back Hartlepool. I'm still going to back them, but I'm less sure if that makes sense after that result. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Hartlepool win. How do you see it going, Paul?
I've gone with a 2-2 draw. 2-2 draw. Like you said, good defence against, a good attack in the last 2 games. Both hard-working teams. I think there's probably a little bit more, want for a better phrase, a little bit more probably skill in the Dagenham side than there is the Hartlepool side. Hartlepool going to be slightly more direct, a bit more robust. I think an interesting sort of, maybe a clash of styles as well. So, yeah, Hartlepool are doing okay, and I think Dagenham are going to be really up for it because of what they've done over the last couple of games. And I think that they'll come away from Hartlepool with the draw. So 2-2.
Yeah, Hartlepool need to bounce back as well. Of course, gifting Ebbsfleet their first win of the season. Back at home, though, now for Hartlepool against Dagenham. I think, both sides have clearly got quite capable attacks this season. You look at Dagenham, they've got Moraes, Pereira, Josh Rees as well, who's known to score a number of goals from the attacking midfield position. But Hartlepool do as well. Disaruwe is there. Adam Campbell hasn't particularly started well, but he's clearly got the ability. Gary Medine is now at Hartlepool as well. I'm not sure if he's actually scored yet or not. And Hartlepool have also added, a bit more depth and a bit of flair as well, which is something that for me, when I watched them against Halifax, I thought that they lacked. They didn't particularly have a winger that was capable of running at players. Signing Nathan. Please correct me if I get this wrong, but Nathan Ashewi, I'm not even going to try pronounce it. Go have a look on Twitter, everyone. But he's a winger, and when I've seen clips of him as well, he's come from the higher levels, and he's a clearly quite capable winger that can give defenders a hard time. So for me, it looks like quite a cute signing from Hartlepool overall, and they're not afraid to spend money, are they, this season so far with some of the names they've brought in. Hartlepool, Medine coming into the side, Adam Campbell, bringing him down from the league above. Thoughts then on Hartlepool's business overall then, Paul, so far this season?
Well, I think one thing they managed to do is get a manager in that they want, and clearly they backed the manager. And I think they've addressed, some of the issues that they potentially had, and the manager Darren Asala has also gone and got the sort of players he likes. So, I don't think Hartlepool are the richest team in the league, but they're certainly well resourced. So they're backing the manager, and I think they just got to be a little bit better now that they sort of have backed him. They've signed some good footballers. They play in a certain style, which is completely up to them. And there's more than one way to skin a cat. But they've got to be effective and start winning games. And I don't think that will be this Saturday, but, they've got to be a bit more consistent.
For me, when I look at Hartlepool, I think they're a side that will get stronger as the season goes on. They've clearly got a good defence. I think going forward, they're going to improve. A lot of new players have come into the side as well, sitting 11th at the moment. They're in touching distance of the playoffs. I think for me, they're just going to get stronger throughout the season. We'll move on to the next game then now. My side coming up against Maidenhead. A bit of a bogey side, I think, Maidenhead for Halifax. I can't remember the last time that we won there. I think it was probably the 1920 season, I think, was the last time that we actually won there. No, I think it was actually the season after. But it's a difficult place for us to go, nevertheless. I feel quite optimistic and confident after the previous game week when we defeated Eastleigh, but it's going to be a totally different type of game away from home on quite a small pitch and congested pitch as well. It's got a bit of a slope. I think we're going to come out on top, though. I'm pretty optimistic. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Halifax win. How do you see it going then, Paul?
I've gone with a Maidenhead win, Luke. So obviously Halifax will win because obviously I've gone with for them to lose. I've put Maidenhead 2, Halifax 1 because I just feel it's one of those very typical sort of matches that Alan Devonshire's team would win, that you wouldn't expect them to win. Both quite good defensively or defensively minded teams. So yeah, I've got a hunch that it's just going to be one of those Alan Devonshire style sort of results this week because Halifax aren't doing too badly and Maidenhead need to sort of claw themselves back out of that bottom four. So I think this will be one of those sorts of results.
Yeah, of course, Maidenhead have only had one win this season, but that came against Barnet, who currently sit third in the league and were the favourites before a ball had been kicked, which is just typical Maidenhead for their only win to come up against Barnet. We'll move on to the next game then now. That is, of course, Oldham versus Yeovil. Now, this is going to be a test for Oldham because last season, this was a typical game for them to, drop points to, get like a 1-1 draw or a 0-0 against a side like Yeovil. So it's going to be interesting to see and maybe a good opportunity to assess how far they've come compared to previous seasons. For me, I'm going to actually back them to win this game. I do think they're going to be a bit stronger than last season, and I'm going to back them to win 1-0. I think it'll be tight, but I think Oldham will be able to come on top. How do you see it going, Paul?
I know when the Oldham fan at the beginning of the show said, "Yeah, come on here for Oldham positivity," and they're getting themselves together, and I just like to see them do better because they're well resourced, they've got a good fan base, they've got everything going for them apart from the fact they're consistently inconsistent. So I'm not going to be as positive this week about Oldham. I've actually put Yeovil to win. I don't know why. I just feel that Mark Cooper plays a real front foot attacking style football, tries to almost outscore other teams. They probably haven't got quite the quality up front that they want. But I could just see them sort of just doing Oldham. I don't know why, because we know Boundary Park's not quite as fortress-like as it possibly could be. But I think Yeovil will just spring a surprise on Oldham. Listen, that's nothing against Oldham. I think that they're improving and they're doing okay. So, but I don't think they will this week. I think they'll lose.
Someone's put a comment in, Paul.
What have I been making? Yeah, Tom, listen. Well, you saw my predictions last week, Tom. I got 3 points. So don't form any basis on what might happen this week on what I say or what Luke says. But a lot of times this goes with hunches, doesn't it, Luke, and sort of feelings that you have as well as looking at stats and form, etc. So, yeah, I've probably been saying some strong stuff, but I still think Yeovil will win.
That's not me being negative, by the way. So don't come on my don't please. I've backed you to win. I've backed you to win, and I do believe that you will win this game. So yeah, this week, Oldham fans, don't come at me. Tag Paul on Twitter, giving you opinions. That's where you go, not on this podcast. Like I said, we're a respectable podcast on Oldham. So yeah, I'm backing Oldham to win this game week, and I would anyway, nevertheless. We'll move on to the next game then now, although it's just come off my screen, which is very convenient.
Solihull Southend.
Solihull v Southend. Good memory there, Paul. Yeah, Southend, the side that we spoke about, struggling so far this season. I think what Southend fans need to do is not get carried away. They need to realise where you've actually come from. And I know it's only a very small section, but there is a section of them that are like kind of questioning Kevin Mayer in a way, which I just think is outrageous considering what he's done. Goal seems to be a problem there. I think the trying to rectify that, bringing Moncur in, but also bringing Bon in. And I think over time they'll probably get better, and they'll be able to score more goals. Yeah, what's your thoughts on Southend before I do get your prediction, Paul?
Yeah, it's a real difficult one, isn't it? Because the performances that they put in under the circumstances they had last season were incredible, and we were quite rightly sort of suggesting that they were one of the teams of the season. And if they hadn't had those points deductions, they'd have been in the playoffs. Would they even have been in the National League this season? Because who would have known they could have gone on and won it? But they haven't backed it up this season. They're looking a little bit short up top, like you said. I think Macaulay Bond coming in is a decent signing, but yes, he's proven at a higher level, but he's got to adapt to National League. To have their fullback, Gus Scott Morris has scored 7 in 9. I think he's one of the leading scorers in the league. That's incredible. But if you're relying on a fullback or a wing back to be a top scorer, then things do need to change in the long term. You're right. I think fans being a little bit restless around Kevin Mayer. I think he's got enough credit in the bank. Do they really expect to go, having new owners off the pitch, to sort of go straight into the playoffs? Is there a season of consolidation? Just let all the dust settle, find their feet again, and then go again next season? It's a difficult one because they are a club that should be pushing playoffs and promotion, but you can see why that the gas has probably been taken off the foot has been taken off the gas rather a little bit. I just hope that they don't slump so much that Kevin Mayer's under a whole lot of pressure. But I don't think he'll be short of any suitors if he does end up leaving Southend. It's unlikely at this time, but I think they've just got to be patient and just think, they're lucky to still be in the National League. They're lucky to still be a football club, and and that's great for them. I think they've just got to be, mindful of, let's just see this season, see where the land lies, and we'll go again.
Although they've been taken over, the problems don't just go away overnight, and that's something that I think a lot of people have got to realise is off the field, there'll still be things happening that they're trying to sort out at Southend as well. And you look at the players that they've brought in; they're clearly very ambitious. The owners have clearly, I think, in a way, backing the manager. I think that's something that over the course of the season, we're probably going to see more and more players coming in at Southend, maybe. You look at Bon and Moncur, the two quite high-profile players that a lot of EFL fans clearly respect as players as well. May, I think we all agree, is a great manager at Southend, and I think deserves that time and that patience, and I think he will get that. And even if Southend do finish 16th, 17th this season, yes, that's not really what Southend's fans would be hoping, but I'd still expect Mayer to be in a job come the end of the season. I do feel that at Southend they're going to be patient, and to be honest, I think what Southend fans, most fans, will be happy with is the fact that they've got a club now to support for the long term as well. And I'm sure in the upcoming years, if it's not this season, we're going to see Southend put a proper strong case together to be able to get back into the Football League. And I'm not saying that's not going to happen this season. There's still a long way to go. We're still only 10 games in, and they're probably only about 5 points off the playoffs. But I do think it's going to take time with them. Nevertheless, then this game, someone's pointed out it's Solihull's bogey team. I think Southend will be able to get a point here. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. What's your thoughts then, Paul?
Solihull 3, Southend 1.
Fair enough then. We'll move on to the next game then now. Sutton versus Ebbsfleet. Sutton actually winning at Southend away from home in the previous game week. Ebbsfleet getting their first win of the season. Will they be able to build on that at Sutton, Paul?
Well, possibly. Sutton had a brilliant start to the season. The start at the beginning, I had them down as one of the teams to be in the playoffs, if not to get promoted and bounce straight back up. They are a young side. We have spoken about this at length. He's changed the squad immensely, brought in a lot of players, some from the lower divisions, and got rid of all the negativity of a relegation squad last year. But they've really dropped away, haven't they? They've only won one in the last 5. So Ebbsfleet are going to not lost in the last 2, so they're looking at a bit of positivity there. I think Sutton are still going to be too strong for them. I put Sutton to win 3-1. I just think they're just going to be a bit too strong for them at home at Gannon Green Lane. But that Ebbsfleet manager's going to, he's going to have to find his feet a little bit and suss his players out. So I think it's going to be a tough one from this week. So I've put Sutton 3, Ebbsfleet 1.
I'm going to go. What did I actually go for? I've gone for a 2-2 draw for this game. I feel like Ebbsfleet now potentially could put their act together away at Sutton, a difficult place to go. We've seen Sutton, although they won in the last game week overall, another side that since they've had that defeat have kind of fallen off a little bit. And I just think for this game with Ebbsfleet, am I right in saying no? They're not. They've got a manager, haven't they? Didn't? Is it? Am I getting mixed up, or did Watling go there? Is that where he went? Or am I getting mixed up? Yeah, that's where he went. My head just literally blew off then. But anyway, yeah, so him going there to Ebbsfleet, a new manager bounce, going to Sutton. I think there'll be a lot of goals. I'm going for a 2-2 draw. Final game, then it's Derby Day for you, Paul. I'm sure you must be attending this game.
Yes, I'll be there.
Wealdstone.
Saying hello to all the Barnet fans.
Yeah, they're another. We're not very likeable by certain clubs at the moment, Paul. We had Oldham fans, and now we had a load of Barnet fans as well at us after your points. But something I have said, and I did come out on Twitter and say, is the points you actually made, although I disagreed with them, I think you spoke well on it, and you put some good points together about it. But yeah, coming into this game, how do you feel?
It's going to be hugely tough for Wealdstone. Yes, the Vale is a difficult place to come. Yeah, there'll be more people there than probably normally. It's on the television. It's a 5:30 kickoff. It'd be under the lights. It's got all the ingredients of being a great derby match, a great grudge match. Yeah, Barnet are in a good run of form. They're one of the stronger teams in the league. They're gonna be up there or thereabouts. I just don't want to see Wealdstone lose the game. I think they need to get, irrespective of who they're playing, they need to get points, especially when you see what's happening down at the bottom. So, I think I've gone with a 2-2 draw, but it's going to be a really tough game, and an interesting one because Barnet, they have struggled a little bit up top, but they've got a strong squad and they'll come to the Vale with a lot of confidence. They've got their manager's our ex-manager. He knows what this game's all about. Some of the players know what this game's all about. So, listen, it'll be a good game. I've gone with the 2-2 draw. I'm hoping that's what it will be. But, it's going to be a tough one for Wealdstone.
Wealdstone have got quite a good record, haven't they, against Barnet at the Vale? Am I correct in saying that? Obviously, they won last year, didn't they? There, and I think a few years ago before.
Overall, since we've been in the National League, our record against Barnet has been favourable. And we got lucky in some games, and we've played well in some games. And listen, they've turned us over in other games. So it's one of those where I think form a little bit goes out of the window because of what may be on the game. I know Barnet fans will tell you that it means more to Wealdstone fans than Barnet fans, but they'll come in their numbers and they'll come and support their team, and it should be it's got all the ingredients of being a really good football match. Both teams play good football. Both teams won't want to lose, so I think it's a good one for the television. Hopefully that lives up to it. And anyone who watches the National League as a floating fan or as sort of a casual fan, they'll watch that and be impressed with what they see. So I'm just hoping Wealdstone don't lose the game. It'd be a bonus if they win, but I think they'll hang in there for a draw.
I'm going to agree with you on a draw, but I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I did have it on 2-2, but I'll change it up a little bit from the purposes of the Predictions League. You've mentioned there about form going out of the window. This is the exact type of game where it does. Last season, I think we saw Wealdstone actually beat Barnet at home at the Vale. It was when they scored in the last minute, didn't they, last season to win 3-2. And actually at Barnet as well, you managed to get a point there as well. And overall, I think last season, Barnet significantly did a lot better than what Wealdstone did. So it just shows that form clearly does go out of the window for this type of game. And, we've spoke about Wealdstone. It's a difficult place to go, I think, overall. when you go into somewhere like Wealdstone, away from home, the fans can get on top of you as well. You know, you're very close to the pitch, you're very close to the action. And I think this is another example of that, especially on a derby day. And yeah, this is another one. Once the 3 o'clock kickoffs have finished, if you've picked your game to watch, this is the type of game that I'd certainly be tuning in for after the Halifax match. Before we finish things up, we've had more people have come in tonight and given their points, Paul. We've had the B Brief. I think that's a Barnet podcast, so that's a shout out to them as well. If they're on YouTube, then please check them out. But they've put 10-0 to Barnet, Paul to run away at half time. Thoughts on that?
They've not seen how fat I am and how unfit I am. I'm not running anywhere, mate. Yeah, I won't be running away till the end of the game. But I can't see it being 10-0. But let's just hope that we're still in the game at half time. But I'll be there till the end. Give me a wave if you want to give me a wave. Flip me the bird if you want to flip me the bird. I don't really mind, but I won't be running away because I can't. I'm not fit enough.
All right, fair enough then. And then we've also had Tom who's coming. Paul and Dean Brennan charity boxing match. Get it on. I'd pay for that.
Not a chance. Look at these good looks. There's not a chance I'm ruining these good looks.
No. All right, fair enough then. And then we've also had someone's put the bees are going up. We'll wait and see. And then we've also had hi chaps, hope you're well. We went to watch
Halstead Town.
Halstead, that's it, Town on Tuesday, and post the recording. We lost 6-0. That's unfortunate for you guys. I think that's more or less it with all the comments then. So thanks to everyone that's tuned in tonight. We're going to put the predictions league on for you guys here. 47 points each. To be 10 games in and to be, after this game weekend, to be equal just shows it's how tight it is at the moment. Paul, the first opportunity for you to take the lead then this season.
Yeah. I think it's going to happen as well, Luke.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see anyway. Please check out our sponsors cards accepted. There'll be a link in the description for you to do that to get 50% off your order. No contracts or monthly fees. Remember to like and subscribe to those that are still with us. Liking gets it out to more people. Subscribing grows the community. We are currently, I'm going to have a little check as we are live, how far we're away from 2,000 followers. We are currently 11 subscribers away from 2,000. Now, there's just short of 50 people with us at the moment. I'm sure there'll be, I'd like to think there'll probably be about maybe 10 of you that haven't subscribed yet. So please subscribe if you haven't already to help get us to 2,000. I want to be coming onto next week's podcast with 2,000 followers. So please do that if you haven't already. And also, Paul, thank you very much for joining me once again.
No problem. Nice. Thanks for having me, Luke. Good as always. Lots going on in the Vanarama as always as well.
Yeah. The Vanarama dramas, as people like to call it. But no, we'll see you all next Thursday, hopefully, for another roundup. Catch me and Paul, me and Rob's. I keep getting you mixed up now. Me and Rob's National League Twitter space on Sunday, where you can actually get involved and talk about how your team has done. So if you're on YouTube, please get yourself signed up on Twitter if you've not, or follow us on Twitter and get involved in our Twitter space where you can actually speak on there. That'll be at about 8 o'clock on Sunday. And I think that's more or less enough for me waffling now. So thanks to everyone that's tuned in. Good luck to everyone this game week, apart from Maidenhead. And we will see you next week. Bye for now.